Welcome to the deep dive. Today, we're setting out to explore a really interesting paleontological puzzle. It's a dinosaur called Bonitasaura.
From the late Cretaceous, right?
Exactly. We've pulled together some fascinating info, and our mission really is to unpack the most important bits for you.
Okay.
So picture this. Late Cretaceous, northwestern Patagonia in Argentina, Rio Negro province specifically.
Yeah, the Neuquén
Yeah.
Basin, incredible fossil territory.
Right, the eastern part. And we're talking about the Santonian age, maybe, 86 to 83 million years ago, from the very top layers of the Bajo de la Carpa Formation.
And that's where they found it.
That's where they found it. A partial skeleton, seems like a subadult, all jumbled up in sandstone from an ancient river deposit.
Jumbled in fluvial sandstone.
Mm-hmm.
That already tells a bit of a story, doesn't it? Maybe washed downstream after it died.
Could be. And Patagonia, like you said, it just keeps giving us these incredible sauropod finds. Each one adds a new piece. Okay, so let's start with the name itself. Bonitasaura. It sounds quite nice, actually.
It does, doesn't it? And the genus name, Bonitasaura, it's actually a nod to the La Bonita fossil quarry. That's where the specimen was unearthed.
Ah, okay, so like the beautiful lizard from La Bonita Quarry.
Pretty much, yeah. A direct link to the spot.
Nice. And the full name, Bonitasaurus salgadoi. That second part, salgadoi, that's significant too, I gather.
It is, yeah. It honors Leonardo Salgado. He's a really important Argentine paleontologist.
Yeah.
Done tremendous work on South American dinosaurs.
So a fitting tribute then.
Absolutely, a giant in the field.
And this discovery wasn't ages ago in paleo terms, was it? It was described in 2004 by Sebastian Apesteguía.
That's right, 2004. So relatively recent, really, in terms of adding it to the big picture of dinosaur evolution.
Okay, so let's get into what this beautiful lizard actually looked like roaming Patagonia. What do we know about its size and features?
Well, based on what we have, the estimate is around 10 meters long, so about 33 feet.
Okay, decent size.
Decent size?
Yeah.
But what's really striking is its skull. It's described as being quite similar to diplodocid skulls.
Diplodocids. Like Diplodocus, that long snout, peg teeth kind of thing.
Exactly.
Huh. Because Bonitasaura is a macronarian, right? And usually you think of things like Brachiosaurus or Camarasaurus, big, boxy heads, high nasal arches.
Precisely. Bonitasaura breaks that mold. Its skull is low and long, and it doesn't have those typical high nasal openings that you see in many other macronarians.
Yeah, that's quite different.
Very different for its group. And the similarities with diplodocids, they don't actually stop there if you look at the lower jaw.
Okay, the lower jaw, what's special about it? The notes mention a sharp ridge.
Yeah, really distinctive sharp ridge right behind the teeth, which are kind of reduced in that area.
Okay.
And the idea, the current thinking, is that this ridge in life would have been covered by a sharp beak-like sheath made of keratin, like our fingernails.
A beak, like a bird's beak.
Sort of, yeah. And maybe a similar structure on the upper jaw, too.
Wow, a sauropod with a beak. That's not the usual image. How would that have worked for feeding?
Well, the hypothesis is that this sharp keratin edge, top and bottom, functioned almost like a guillotine.
A guillotine.
Yeah, or maybe like garden shears. So the peg-like teeth at the very front would rake in the vegetation, pull it into the mouth,
Right.
and then chop. The beak gives a clean cut.
Built-in pruning shears. That makes sense. Okay, so specialized feeding. What about the neck? It's described as relatively short. That seems odd for a sauropod, too.
It is shorter compared to some, especially the really famous long-necked titanosaurs.
Yeah.
But the back vertebrae, they have these really robust projections,
Meaning
strong muscle attachments.
Mm-hmm.
So while the neck wasn't super long, it was probably very powerful, built for, vigorous movements needed for that cropping feeding style.
Okay. So maybe not reaching high, but strong for processing lower stuff.
Got it.
Okay. And the limbs. Reverse proportions compared to other macronarians?
That's right. The front limbs were shorter than the hind limbs.
Which is usually the other way around in macronarians, isn't it?
Yeah.
They often have longer front legs.
Exactly. Most have longer front legs, or at least equal.
Yeah.
So this reverse proportion of shorter front legs, it's another feature that reminds us of diplodocids.
Okay, this is a recurring theme then. Skull, jaw, limbs. What about the tail? Anything diplodocid-like there?
Yep. The evidence suggests it had rudimentary whiplash tips on its tail. Again, similar to diplodocids.
Maybe not as extreme as Diplodocus itself.
Probably not quite as developed, but the basic structure seems to have been there. A sort of tapering whip-like end.
So this convergence with diplodocids is really strong. Skull, jaw, limbs, tail. It keeps coming up. What does that tell us about how Bonitasaura lived?
Well, putting it all together, the low skull, the beak, the potentially shorter, stronger neck, the limb proportions, it strongly suggests it wasn't browsing high in the trees like maybe Brachiosaurus was.
Right.
It points towards a strategy focused on lower-lying vegetation, more of a grazer perhaps, using that beak to efficiently crop plants near the ground.
A different ecological niche?
Exactly. And it's a fantastic example of convergent evolution, different lineages independently arriving at similar solutions for, similar lifestyles.
It really is. Okay, let's switch gears slightly. Where does Bonitasaura fit in the grand scheme, the dinosaur family tree? Initially, it was put in Namegtosauridae.
That's right. Back in 2004, Apesteguera classified it within Namegtosauridae. That's a family of titanosaurs known mainly from Asia, actually, often from good skull material.
So the thinking was it shared key features with those Asian forms.
Based on what they saw then, yes. Especially some skull features.
But paleontological understanding evolves, right? More fossils, better analysis.
Always. And later studies using cladistics, that's the method for working out evolutionary relationships based on shared features.
Building the family tree, basically.
Exactly. Those analyses consistently started placing Bonitasaura firmly within Titanosauria, but closer to other South American groups, like Loncosauria and Rhynchosauria.
Okay, so moving it geographically and relationally closer to home, so to speak. And there's even more recent work from 2023.
Yes. Agnelin and colleagues, when they described the giant Chucorosaurus last year, they did a new analysis. They placed Bonitasaura within a subgroup called Colossosauria.
Colossosauria, okay.
Big name. Fitting for titanosaurs. And within that, their analysis puts Bonitasaura as the sister taxon. So, like the closest relative or sibling branch to a group containing Chucorosaurus, Notocolossus, and the Loncosauria clade.
Okay, let's try and picture that. We've got the big group, Colossosauria, then Rhynchosauria branches off, and right next to that branch is Bonitasaura.
Correct.
And then Bonitasaur's sibling group includes Chucorosaurus, Notocolossus, and then Loncosauria, which itself includes giants like Pseudoloncosaurus, Portosaurus.
Yeah, and Mendozasaurus, Quetzalcosaurus, and eventually leading towards titans like Argentinosaurus and Patagodoton.
Wow, so seeing it laid out like that, Bonitasaura at 10 meters was respectable, but definitely not in that super heavyweight class of some of its later relatives.
Precisely. It gives context to its size. And going back to that convergence thing, this actually sheds some light on another kind of mysterious South American sauropod, Antarctosaurus.
Ah, yes. The notes mention Bonitasaura makes the idea of Antarctosaurus being a chimera less likely. What's a chimera in this context?
Well, Antarctosaurus is based on pretty fragmentary fossils. And for a long time, some wondered if the fossils assigned to it were actually a mix specifically, maybe a titanosaur body mixed up with a diplodocid-like jaw found nearby.
Like fossils from two different animals accidentally grouped together.
Exactly. That's the chimera hypothesis. But then you find Bonitasaura, a single animal, clearly a titanosaur, that independently evolved a diplodocid-like skull and jaw.
So it proves it can happen.
It provides a real-world example showing that combination features can occur naturally in one titanosaur species. Doesn't automatically mean Antarctosaurus isn't a chimera. The fossils are still tricky, but it makes that explanation less necessary, perhaps.
That's really neat. A fossil helping solve a puzzle about another fossil. Okay, one last area the information touches on, and it's quite personal to the individual dinosaur found. Paleopathologies. Signs of disease or injury.
Yes, the holotype specimen, that partial skeleton, wasn't pristine. It actually shows evidence of several health problems this particular animal faced during its life.
Really? Like what was wrong with it? It's like reading its medical chart?
Well, most seriously perhaps, they found evidence of a femoral osteoblastic tumor.
A tumor on its thigh bone, like bone cancer.
Essentially, yes, a type of bone tumor. They also found an enthesophyte on one of his foot bones, a metatarsal.
Like cheers.
It's a bony growth where a tendon or ligament attaches, often indicates stress, repetitive strain, or maybe an old injury to the foot.
Okay, and there was more.
One more thing mentioned is abnormal tissue on part of a tail vertebra, likely caused by some kind of infection.
Where? So this one individual, a subadult no less, was dealing with a bone tumor, a potential foot injury issue, and an infection in its tail.
Seems like it. It really drives home that these animals, despite their size, were, living beings facing real biological challenges. They got sick, they got injured.
Absolutely. It's not just about how big they were, but the actual lives they lived. Those pathologies give us a glimpse into that, don't they?
A very valuable glimpse. clues about injuries, diseases they were prone to, maybe the stresses their huge bodies were under.
Okay, so let's wrap up our deep dive on Bonitasaura. We've seen this really unique titanosaur from Patagonia. It had that specialized beak, which is fascinating.
Really set it apart.
And it showed this remarkable convergent evolution with diplodocids in its skull, its jaw, its limbs, its tail.
A great example of that process.
And the single known specimen gives us this poignant look at the diseases and injuries these giants could suffer from.
Yeah, it grounds them in reality. It highlights the complexity of evolution, finding similar solutions in different lines, but also reminds that life back then, even for a big dinosaur, wasn't necessarily easy.
Which leads us to a final thought for you, our listener. Thinking about Bonitasaura, its unique beak, its evolutionary position, the health issues it faced, what do you think its specific role was in that late Cretaceous ecosystem? What was it actually eating with that specialized mouth? And what else might be waiting in Patagonia to tell us more about these amazing animals and maybe finally clear up the mystery of Antarctosaurus? It's a story still being written in the rocks. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.